has served Lamert Park and surrounding communities, empowering tomorrow's leaders and changing lives. Parkside EDC has awarded over $400,000 in college scholarships while sharing economic principles of the Big Five of money with students and their families. Parkside EDC partners with organizations like the Brotherhood Crusade to assure our youth have the financial acumen to succeed. Parkside EDC provides families and businesses with financial insights, offering free online, on-site, and on-air B-Warp presentations. The Black Wealth Attainment and Retention Programs helps our community acquire, sustain, and pass down legacy wealth. High school seniors can apply for this year's scholarship awards at parksideedc.org. Scholarships will be awarded at Parkside EDC's Gospel/Jazz Brunch on Sunday, April the 27th. For details, tickets, or donations, please visit parksideedc.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Tavis, Smiley, Eddie Levert of the Mighty OJs joins us today in our third hour. In this hour, Attorney George Farley III first came on this program for a conversation about his representation of the Bruce family, for whom he successfully negotiated the return of their land, more specifically Bruce's Beach, here in Manhattan Beach, California. Since that first visit, his phones have not stopped ringing with calls from black families all across America with harrowing stories about how their land, their inheritance, was stolen from them. The question for George Farley III was, what to do? The answer? The Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project. You can learn a great deal more about the project at blacklandlost.org. That's blacklandlost.org. But today, we want to hear from George Farley III about why this project, why now, and how black families can protect themselves from land dispossession. But first, before we commence our conversation with George, let's hear from one of the untold number of black families who have lost their land.
I hope that by people sharing their stories, I hope they can get some worth, some self-worth about their lives, because black people have been kicked, hit, spit on, killed, where some have just kind of sunk into a corner. I hope your project will give some self-worth to people, because we're not just bums and drug addicts and standing on a street corner. I have uneducated parents who own something, and I don't want to sound racist, but a lot of white people didn't own 10 acres of land. That makes me feel good that that my parents, so that gives me some worth. There was another, I don't know if you can add this. We had 10 acres of land. A few years before they started we're starting the eminent domain stuff, they took about a quarter acre because they said It's next to a school. They said they needed it for parking for the baseball fields. So they had already taken some from us, about a quarter acre. So then they come back later to get the rest. So it was, and they never did anything with the quarter acre they took for us. Blackberry briars and dandelions and Scotch broom. They didn't do anything, but they just took it. To let us know, I think, that they could.
You couldn't stand that your parents, who were uneducated black sharecroppers from the South, had managed to obtain that for themselves.
Yeah. Proud of them.
I think they're proud of what you're doing right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's called the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project. It is the brainchild of George Fatheree III, the man, again, who got the land back for the Boosters Beach family. When we come forward, I will let George explain what you just heard, and we will jump from there. You're listening, I'm glad about it, to Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Before the fire, Altadena was a real-life Wakanda. A thriving black oasis just 15 miles from downtown Los Angeles. 80% black residents were homeowners, building intergenerational wealth against the odds. It was a hub of black-owned businesses, churches, and cultural institutions. It stood as a symbol of black resilience and economic independence. Then, in a matter of hours, it was gone. The fire tore through homes, swallowed businesses, and left behind a painful void. But was it just an unstoppable act of nature, or was negligence involved? Did officials ignore early warning signs? Were the response efforts delayed or insufficient? What role, if any, did corporate or government failures play? Survivors are demanding answers. Don't miss our KBLA Talk 1580 Town Hall. The Eden Altadena Fire, 100 days and counting. On Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center, 1081 North Fair Oaks in Pasadena. Join Dominic DePrima, Nee Cordelai Corte, James Farr, Tavis Smiley, and a panel of survivors, community leaders, and experts as we commemorate Day 100 since the wildfires flared up, and we discuss where we go from here. It's KBLA's Eden Altadena Fire, 100 Days and Counting Town Hall, Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center in Pasadena. Light refreshments to follow. Admission is free, but sign-up is required at our KBLA1580.com website. The first 100 attendees will receive a complimentary air purifier. This is a community call to action, brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
After producing an award-winning climate justice campaign in 2024, KBLA Talk 1580 has gone all in on its 2025 Climate Justice plus Black Health Initiative. April is Minority Health Month, and Urban Family Focus, in partnership with Providence Health Systems, presents The Heart of the Matter. Providence doctors and health equity officers will participate in informative and life-changing conversations on hypertension, health equity, behavioral health, and community engagement. Don't miss these empowering conversations on Urban Family Focus every Saturday in April at 7 and Sunday at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Sponsored by Providence, Southern California's largest and most comprehensive health care network. We've got a lot to talk about on KBLA Talk 1580. Download the KBLA 1580 app or log in to KBLA1580.com. I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. On KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
At the tone, please record your message. You ready? Drop it! Mr. Tavis Smiley, preach it. Thank you, man. Politics in this country is crazy. You put things in perspective that even I didn't. The right is playing fast and loose with facts and scapegoating everyone under the sun, especially black and brown people. As a white man, I do not agree with this, and I am on my black and brown brothers and sisters' side. Fight the good fight. Know that I am part of the resistance. Let's fight the power.
Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed. Our guest in this hour is George Fotherby III. So we just played a clip for you, George. First of all, it's good to see you, my friend. How are you?
I'm good, brother. Good to see you, Tavis. Thank you for having me back to talk about this important project. And thank you for helping us get the word out.
Nope, my pleasure. So tell me what we just heard.
Yeah, so that gentleman, that brave gentleman, that is John Houston. Let me tell you about John and his family. Mm-hmm. John's mom and dad were sharecroppers in Louisiana in the 1940s. John's dad had heard that there was a naval base in Washington State that would hire black people. So he left Louisiana, took caravan, walked, got himself to Seattle, Washington, and found this naval base. Naval base was in a city called Bremerton. They built ships. Sure enough, they hired black people. John's dad got a job at the naval base building ships. Black people couldn't live within the city of Bremerton because of racial restrictions. Mm-hmm. So he ended up moving in a town called Renton, about 10 miles away. Worked for 10 years, saved money, and saved enough to buy a 10-acre parcel of land in Renton, Washington. Wrote to his wife and said, I want you to bring the family. So they moved. His wife came. She brought the kids. They lived on this 10 acres in Renton, Washington, and they lived off the land. They farmed. He did, he junked cars. He did construction stuff, but they lived off that land, that 10 acres. The Renton School District came and said, hey, we need to take this land. We're going to build a middle school. That's crazy because from the Houston's front porch, you could see the middle school. It's about a mile away. You could look at it, right? But the district said, no, we need this land. We're going to build a new school. John's parents refused to sell. In 1963, there was a mysterious fire that burned the house down. Never investigated. Thankfully, nobody was killed. The Houston's rebuilt. A few years later, the house caught fire again. They rebuilt again, and finally, I think it was 68. There was an explosion that went off on the family's front porch. A bomb went off. When that bomb went off, John's father finally said, "Okay, we're gonna let the district take this land." They took it via eminent domain. I've got a copy of the deed where he signed his name with an X. He was not literate. He was not educated. Uneducated sharecropper from Louisiana. School district took that land because they had to build a school. They held the land for 2 years, turned around and sold it to a Washington real estate developer who built 200 homes on that 10 acres. Today, each of those homes, Tavis, sell for about between $900,000 and $1.2 million. And they never built a school, and the Houstons lost that property. And when I spoke with John, who you heard, what he talked about is how that loss impacted his life. And he shares very publicly that, like, after that loss, his parents separated, which happens in a lot of these cases when you see, like, it tears a family apart. His dad wasn't in the house. His mom had to work 2 jobs, so the kids started getting in trouble. John started drinking, started doing drugs. He ended up he spent the majority of his life homeless or incarcerated. And he got out, he got clean, and he's focused on, he traced it back, he traced it back, and it was this, taking of the family's land. So that's one story, but it's one of hundreds, it's one of thousands.
I was just talking, as you may have heard before you came in studio, in our last hour, we were talking about trauma.
Yeah.
We were just talking about trauma and the impact it has on people's lives when this kind of theft, frankly, happens. Let me slow down for a second here. I got a really bright audience. I know they get this. So I don't need to ask you to explain what eminent domain is, although you should feel free to do so in short order. But to what extent is your research telling you that black people have been harmed by this notion of eminent domain over the years, all across the country?
Look, I think so eminent domain is one example, and one of the things we could talk about, get into, is it's just one example. And for me, when we go out and we're collecting these stories, right? So as you mentioned, right, Black Land Loss Narrative Archive Project, This is an effort to collect, preserve, and amplify stories of black land loss. And we feel urgency around this work because every year that goes by, we lose these stories.
Oh, yeah.
Right? The great-grandmothers die. The great-grandfathers die. The story keepers die. And so this work has real urgency. Look, coming into this work, I felt like I understood the impacts of, of depriving a people, of a community, the right to own real estate, build intergenerational wealth, right? And we see it in the wealth gap. We see it in the home ownership gap. What you're getting on from this, from the last caller or from the last guest in this call is, it's not just the economic impacts, but when we interview families, what you see is you see the psychological impact, and it's been wild, Tavis, because you talk to some of these, and this is like the second, third, fourth generation after the land theft has occurred. And what they'll say is, my father was so ashamed that land got taken. He felt like and so we couldn't talk about it, right? Shut up, don't talk about that. There's a shame, there's a sense of like you got duped, that like you weren't smart enough, and that has lasting impacts on our families and our communities. So it's been eye opening for me, all of the different ways, not just economic, that this black land theft has impacted our community and our people.
Yeah. Would you say? Let me ask this question another way. Would you say that eminent domain is one of the, I won't say prevailing, but one of the standard ways in which black folk have lost their land, or has it been stolen through some other means?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So that's what I'm learning. So I came into this and I thought I knew the playbook, right? You've got redlining. You've got racially restrictive covenants that says black people can't live here. You've got eminent domain where the city or the county says we need to build a highway or we need to build a school and we're going to take your property. I thought I understood the playbook, but let me tell you what I'm learning. We went out, we collected a narrative in Texas. Collected a couple in Texas. They were busy in Texas, boy. They were busy.
Somehow I'm not surprised. Yeah. I am not surprised by this.
But let me tell you what I learned though. So I go out and I sit down with the family. I say, okay, tell me about how they stole your land. And they looked at me. They said, nobody stole our land. And I said, okay. Well, what happened? You lost your land. They stole it. They said, no, we didn't steal our land. They said we had a family farm. And they said, let me explain to you about farming. When you run a farm, you got to borrow money, right? Farms don't operate without credit. And the lender is the government, right? It's the Food the Food and Drug Administration, I think, is the main lender. And they said, but all that funding is administered here at the local county level, right? And so you got to go and apply at the county level. And we know who operates kind of those offices. So what they said is we had a farm, and the government refused to lend money to black farm owners. So they would make the loans to the white farm owners. But if you're black, you wouldn't get the loan. There'd always be something that was wrong. And so what that meant is like after a few seasons, like our neighbors are like, getting money, they're planting crops, they're getting equipment, they're hiring people, they're selling, and they're paying back the loan. We couldn't grow anything. So after about a decade of that, we had to sell the farm, right? We had to sell at auction. Who buys it? Our next door neighbor, right? So it's like, nobody stole it. So I heard that story. And I was like, oh, man, that's crazy. I never thought about that. So I go to the next interview, and I ask him, hey, tell me about who stole your land. And they go, man, nobody stole our land. But here's what he said. I said, tell me what happened. He goes, well, we had oil land, right? We had oil. And they said what happened is when oil was discovered in the county, the oil companies came in and they would sign leases with all the landowners to extract the oil from the land. They wouldn't sign leases with the black landowners. Right? They didn't want to see us getting rich, see us getting wealthy. So all the white landowners, you had these oil leases, you're making a ton of money. The county increases the property tax because everybody can afford it. Who can't afford it? It's us. And so then we lost the land to a tax foreclosure. Who bought the land? Our next door neighbor. Right? So it's like
slick as sandpaper.
It's
as
like
slick as sandpaper.
You have no idea the lengths that folks, government, private, like banks went to take land from black people. And so what I'm learning is eminent domain was huge, right? That's happened all over. Urban renewal, another like code word for like, taking black neighborhoods and redeveloping it. But it was not like, how did they do it? It's like, how didn't they do it? Yeah. Right?
Yeah. So it's a deep playbook.
It's a very deep playbook. It's been perfected over a century and a half.
So it seems to me that just given what you've laid out now, that while you can collect these stories in the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, and you should collect these stories, and you're right, there's a timeline on this, right? Because people are dying. So I get that part. What I don't get is down the road how people think they get their land back if they were, in fact, duped out of the land, if they were tricked out of the land. I get that part. But this is very different, it seems to me, than what you did for the Bruce's Beach family. What am I missing here?
Yeah, no. So look, so the genesis of this project is obviously the work we did with the Bruce family. And as you pointed out, once the Bruce family got that land back, right, I was getting emails and phone calls every day.
I'm sure.
Attorney Father, we had 30 acres oil land in Louisiana. When my great-grandfather died, the neighbor forged his name on the deed, and we lost everything. Can you help us? Attorney Father, we had a 100-acre cattle ranch in South Texas, and one day the sheriff came with guns and dogs and said, if we don't leave town, there'll be trouble. We left that night. We lost everything. Can you help us? What I realized, Tavis, was that our legal system does not provide any remedy in 99.999% of these cases. And I remember, and this was a powerful moment to me, I remember I was speaking to somebody, and I said that, and he said, Attorney Father, you don't understand. I've got evidence. I got the documents. And I said, sir, I'm sorry, but you don't understand. Our legal system does not provide a remedy in that case. And what he said, I'll never forget this, he said, yeah, I guess our legal system's broken. And when he said that, I laughed, which was not appropriate. But he said that. He said, our legal system's broken. And I said, sir, our legal system is not broken. Our legal system works precisely
the way it was supposed to.
The way it was designed to work by and for the people who designed it. That's not me and you.
Sure.
And so when those words came out of my mouth, what I realized was, okay, the law is not gonna help here. And if we lose these stories, all hope is lost. Mm-hmm. And so we've got like an urgent imperative to collect these stories. And why collect them, right? That's where you're going. Why collect them? When you look at Bruce's Beach, now people know that I was involved in the Bruce case. They know I'm an attorney, so they assume I went out and I sued the city of Manhattan Beach and we got the land back. Like, that's not what happened, right? At the core, kind of the genesis of the Bruce family get that land back was a well-preserved and a compelling story. Mm-hmm. And it was a story when people like I heard it, when community leaders and activists like Kavon Ward heard it, when elected officials like Janice Hahn heard that story, you kind of look at yourself and you're like, that's not right. We got to do something. And so that's the beginning. Like if you're asking like, what are we going to do with these stories kind of down the road? How are we going to use it to get individual pieces of land back? The honest answer is, Tavis, is I'm not sure.
But it starts with a narrative though.
But it starts with collecting and preserving these. Yeah. And my hope is that, when you put this body of information together and you share it, and I think good-minded, good-hearted people, when they hear these stories, it changes the way they think about stuff. Mm-hmm. And it helps us understand how we got to where we are today. And hopefully it'll help persuade us of the imperative to change where we're going.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a strange question, but I know you can handle it because you are George Farley III. How would you situate the timing of this project, the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project? Situate the timing of this project finding its, where I'm going already, I hear you laughing. The timing of this project finding its legs in the era of Trump 2.0.
Man, I was afraid you were going to ask about this.
You knew I was going there, didn't you?
I was afraid you were going to ask about this.
Yeah, just situate it as you will.
So this project got out of the gate, pre this administration, right? We've been, this has been a couple years in the making, and it really kind of kicked off last year. So this project has been going. What I'll say, though, the need and the importance and the urgency of this project has never been more clear than it is right now. So I serve as a commissioner for one of the Smithsonian Institution museums. Mm-hmm. We got a letter from the administration last week. Not a letter. We got an executive order. Let me say what the executive order said. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to read a few sentences. He said, over the past decades, Americans have witnessed a concerted and widespread effort to rewrite our nation's history, replacing objective facts with a distorted narrative driven by ideology rather than truth. This revisionist movement seeks to undermine the remarkable achievements of the United States by casting its founding principles and historical milestones in a negative light. Under this historical revision, our nation's unparalleled legacy of advancing liberty, individual rights, and human happiness is reconstructed as an inherently racist, sexist, oppressive, and otherwise irredeemably flawed. Rather than fostering unity and a deeper understanding of our shared past, the widespread effort to rewrite history deepens societal divides and fosters a sense of national shame, disregard, and honor. So what's going on with this administration is a rewriting of history, and they want to erase. Like, we got to understand, we can't go forward unless we understand how we got to where we are now. I'll give a simple example of this. When the Bruces lost their property in the eminent domain action in the early 1920s, it wasn't just the Bruce family that lost land. You know this. There were 5 other black families who had their property taken in that eminent domain. And the reason, and those were the only black families who owned property and lived in the city of Manhattan Beach at the time. So every black family who lived in Manhattan Beach in the 1920s lost their land in the eminent domain action. Fast forward 100 years, Manhattan Beach has got the lowest population of African-American citizens of any city in LA County, right? It's like 0.5%. If you don't know the history of that eminent domain 100 years ago and you say, well, how come so few black people live in Manhattan Beach? You'll develop a narrative, right? You'll say, well, it's really expensive to live there. Black people don't have the money, or, it's close to the ocean and black people don't
we don't swim. Yeah.
Yeah. Right there. So you come up with, but it's like, no.
Yeah.
That's not the right narrative. What happened was the city 100 years ago took every parcel of land that a black family was living in, and that's got a legacy. That's how we got here. We got to understand how we got here if we're serious about getting out of here.
This is a fascinating conversation for me. I knew it would be when George Farley III showed up. The project is called the Black Land Loss Narrative Archive Project. More about it and how you can support it and be a part of it and get your story told. We come forward on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Chicago's Black Mayor Brandon Johnson compared President Trump's threats to cut federal funding to terrorism, stating he won't negotiate with terrorists after Trump moved to strip sanctuary cities of aid. Former President Biden criticized the Trump administration for causing damage and destruction during a speech in Chicago Tuesday. Biden advocated for Social Security, adding that Trump has taken a, quote, hatchet to the Social Security Administration. There are now more than 560 measles cases in Texas linked to an outbreak that started among members of a Mennonite church that opposes vaccinations. The latest number shows about 24 new cases since Friday. And the antitrust trial against Meta continues today, with CEO Mark Zuckerberg defending his purchase of Instagram and WhatsApp. The FTC plans to call former COO Sheryl Sandberg to testify. The trial's outcome could reshape big tech operations. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Imagine a photograph of your favorite place in California. Then right in the middle of it, one piece of litter. Litter has no place in our lives, not one piece. Together, let's change that. Clean California. Zero litter is the goal. CleanCA.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers beat Colorado Tuesday 6-2 on Jackie Robinson Day. Every player from both teams wore a number 42 jersey in honor of Robinson, Major League Baseball's first black player. Before the game, the Dodgers and Colorado players gathered together to hear Lakers legend Kareem Abdul-Jabbar talk about the importance of Robinson's legacy. Kareem called President Trump's policies on diversity, equity, inclusion an undercover reason to discriminate. Robinson became a civil rights advocate after he retired from baseball in 1957 and met with Presidents Dwight Eisenhower, John F. Kennedy, and Richard Nixon. Robinson would not be happy with the current president. Robinson would be encouraged by the fact that both of Major League Baseball's black managers are right here in Southern California. The Dodgers' Dave Roberts and Ron Washington with the Angels. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
At the tone, please record your message.
You ready?
Drop it!
Mr. Tavis, Smiley, preach it. Thank you, man. Politics in this country is crazy. You put things in perspective that even I didn't. The right is playing fast and loose with facts and scapegoating everyone under the sun, especially black and brown people. As a white man, I do not agree with this, and I am on my black and brown brothers and sisters' side. Fight the good fight. Know that I am part of the resistance. Let's fight the power.
Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, aka the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Imagine a photograph of your favorite place in California. Then right in the middle of it, one piece of litter. Litter has no place in our lives, not one piece. Together, let's change that. Clean California. Zero litter is the goal. CleanCA.com.
Hi, I'm Dominique DePrima, and it's almost time to celebrate KBLA's 4th anniversary, coming up Juneteenth 2025. We'll be marking the achievement with 4 key community events, including a special symposium, luncheon, and brain trust hosted by me entitled The State of Black Women in Los Angeles. Keep it locked here for details on how to join us for this groundbreaking symposium examining the unique challenges, triumphs, and contributions of Black women in Los Angeles in the areas of education, healthcare, community leadership, cultural and political contributions. This public convocation will provide a critical forum to address the specific social, economic, and political realities facing Black women in LA today. We'll go live with a radio broadcast and YouTube live stream, a public discussion, and a private dialogue with some of LA's most impactful women. It's an affirmation of Black women standing at the intersection of race and gender in times of adversity while demonstrating remarkable resilience and leadership. We will listen and we will speak out and be heard, all in service of finding opportunities and solutions. Please plan to join us in celebrating our 4th anniversary by amplifying the voices of Black women. For more on our symposium and 4 events celebrating 4 years on the air, simply stay tuned or keep an eye on KBLA1580.com and help make this Juneteenth more jubilant with all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
Freedom is an endless meeting, so let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley. Freedom is an endless meeting, So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and George Fatherly III. It's called the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project. We're going to tell you in just a moment how you can participate and spread the word about this project. We need to collect these stories. The time is now, and many of these persons, as George said earlier, are aging and transitioning. And we need to collect these stories now. I loved his honest answer earlier. I said, George, what are you going to do with it? I don't know. He didn't know that Bruce's Beach story was going to turn out the way it did, but you have to at least collect the stories. You got to get the narrative right, and then who knows what happens a little further down the road. Before I continue our conversation with George Fatherly III, some more sound from one of the many, many, many phone calls that they are receiving for the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project.
Good afternoon. Oh, it's still morning there. We're 3 hours different. Anyways, my name is Aretha Thomas, and I have followed the case of George Fatherly helping the Bruce family retrieve their land. My mom, she left an inheritance for all of us. But the land was stolen by oil companies. The land has oil and gas on it. I recently have learned that the papers where two of the people did not sell their land, the other people were tricked out of the land. Anyways, to make a long story short, at 70 years old, I'd like to retrieve that land for future generations. And I'm just wondering if Mr. Fatherly works out of Texas, where he's only working in California. This is like a desperate plea for help. My understanding is it's 352 acres of land, oil and gas. If you can help me, please call me back. If not, then I'll continue to look for someone that can assist me. You have a blessed night, and I thank you for helping the Bruces retrieve their land. It was well deserved. Thank you.
First of all, let me just say, I love the humility and the humanity in her call. That said, how do you, I'm just giving the audience a taste of the kinds of calls you're getting for this Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project. But when you hear these calls come through, like how do you feel? How do you process this, George?
Man, Tavis, I mean, thanks for asking about that. But you're not the same.
Yeah.
Right? You're not the same. And what you realize is, you know, this woman, Miss Thomas, she's in her 70s now. She's carried this burden her whole life, and she never had any idea of what to do. There was never not even a glimmer of hope. Not even one of the narratives we collected. Dr. Rosalind Alexander, which she says in her interview, she's so eloquent. She says, "Please understand that if you're black in the 1920s." The government wants your land. They don't come and ask politely, right? They don't come and say, please, like she said, one, they take it. Two, they make you feel like they did you a favor, like it was an act of service that you were able to contribute your land to this project they're building, right? And so the point I'm trying to make is there's been no hope for a lot of folks. And I want to talk about something because you asked the question, hey, what are we going to do with this? And it used to piss me off. It still pisses me off when people would ask about Bruce's Beach and they'd say stuff like, hey, how does it feel to get justice for the Bruce family? How does it feel? You got justice for Bruce's Beach. How does that feel? And that, it pisses me off because I want to be clear. Like the Bruce family did not get justice, right? They had something taken from them that could have been an annuity for 100 years of wealth that they could have built. They did not get justice. Like, maybe they got restitution. Maybe they got reparations. I don't even like when people call it reparations. It's like, if I steal your wallet.
That's right.
If I steal your wallet and then 2 days later I give it back, like you didn't get reparations. You got your stuff back, right? And so
that's right.
So it frustrates me. So anyways, I was given a talk, Tavis, and it was kind of an international audience. And I made the point about, look, this is not, I want to be clear, it's not justice, them getting the land back. And I'm done doing the talk, and this European woman from Belgium comes up to me, gets right in my face. She goes, I disagree with what you said. And I'm like, what the? She goes, I disagree with what you said. She goes, you said that those families didn't get justice. And what she explained to me, and it was powerful, she explained that after apartheid fell in South Africa, they had the Truth and Reconciliation.
TRC.
Yep.
Sure.
And she said it was an opportunity for victims to come forward and to share their story and to have it recorded. And she said, if you look and you study where that happened, she goes, it's not the justice we think of like in a capital American system, like that justice, like you got like legal justice. But she said it's a form of what she calls like, transitional justice. And I got to tell you, when we collect these narratives and we give people the opportunity to share what happened to their family, to share the reason their father lost their job and left the family, to share the reason that the family ended up like at the end of that conversation, like I didn't do anything. Like there's no promise. This is not legal support. But sharing that story and knowing that it's going to be captured and preserved, I think does provide something for people that I think is important.
See, you're onto something here. So let me take this thing a step further. When you mentioned the TRC in South Africa, it wasn't just those persons who were victimized. And here's the more powerful part of the story for me. You see where I'm going, don't you? Yeah. It's the perpetrators. That's exactly where I'm going, George Father III. It's the perpetrators who were allowed to come forward and tell their stories. And if you came forward and told the truth about the harm that you caused, the maiming that you caused, the murder if you came forward and told the truth, then these black people, this is why I love us at our best. Ain't nobody like us. These black folk in South Africa would forgive you because Desmond Tutu, Nelson Mandela, all of those, Oliver Tambo, all these great leaders understood that retribution was not the answer. That's right. That was not the response. So at our best, we have shown
grace.
Exactly.
It's grace.
It's grace and mercy, right? And those are unmerited favors. You didn't earn this. No. It's an unmerited favor. But it shows again who we are at our best. Now, let me take another step. I would love that in this country, the perpetrators who stole this land, who tricked these black folk out of their land, would come forth and tell their truth, but that ain't going to happen.
Well, look, that's not going to happen, and I'm not – I mean, you're more that's an ambitious aspiration, right? But even beyond that, though, just having, folks sit down and understand, like, hey, the way that I got to where I am today, maybe it's because I'm good and smart and work hard, but like it's really because my grandfather was able to buy this land and build wealth, and with that wealth he was able to start a business, and with that business he was there's no shame in the recognition that we are benefactors of what happened before us. And there also should not be any shame in understand that we're victims of what happened before us. And what you point out, I love the analogy you make with South Africa. Like in this country, we never did that.
Never.
Right? We just said, hey, let's forget about it and let's try to move forward. You see where that's got us. Now there's a conscious effort, not just let's not talk about it, let's erase it.
Yeah.
Right? Let's take those names off the wall. And so that's why that work's important. And look, we know that there are thousands of stories out there, and we want folks. So we've got a website. It's www.blacklandlost.org, blacklandlost.org. When you go to that site, at the top of the page, in the very middle, there's a button that says Share Your Story. And we want folks who've been impacted by black land loss, black land theft. We want them to go on that site. We want them to click the button and just tell us what happened. Describe what happened so that we can start to build a database, and then we're going to follow up and collect these stories, get videos, get audio, so that we don't lose this.
We'll give you that website at least 3 or 4 more times before we wrap this conversation with George Father III. It's called the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project. More about it when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From Lamert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month. If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a black and brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
At Exquisite Family Mortuary, we know how overwhelming it can be planning a meaningful farewell for your loved one. Secure your peace of mind by calling Charlotte White at 323-577-5562. That's Charlotte White at 323-577-5562. From traditional funeral services to memorials to direct cremation, pre-needs, and more. Call Charlotte White at Exquisite Family Mortuary for Southern hospitality in Southern California. That's Charlotte White at 323-577-5562. Exquisite Family Mortuary is located nearby in Inglewood, California. Exquisite Family Mortuary, where your loved one becomes our loved one. Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed with George Favre III. That website, once again, is called blacklandlost.org. We need to hear your stories. Blacklandlost.org. If you have a story, know someone with a story, direct them to blacklandlost.org. We need to collect these stories. I was saying to George a moment ago during the break that you never know where this is going to take you, because there are moments when the good white folk have their consciences pricked. When they saw Emmett Till in that casket, their consciences were pricked. When they saw those water hoses and those dogs being sicked on those precious black babies in Birmingham, their consciences were pricked. So you're taking the first step, which is to collect these stories about this black land loss. But who knows where down the road this may take you.
So let me jump in. So I don't want to sound naive, but a part of this project is around changing hearts and minds. Mm-hmm. But I also want to think back to the clip that you opened with, that John Huston clip. Mm-hmm. And the question John was responding to is, what do you hope to accomplish by sharing your story? And what John said was powerful. He said, I hope it helps people find some worth about themselves. Mm-hmm. So John's not focused on changing hearts and minds of white folks. Mm-hmm. John's talking to our people, our community. Oh, yeah. It's okay. Mm-hmm. This was out of your control. This was not because your family was kind of dumb or stupid or wasn't like, this is because it got taken and there was nothing they can do. And so it's powerful for us to understand how we got here too, Tavis.
Yeah. And beyond the Bruce's Beach story, which of course you were at the epicenter of, we discussed that earlier, that happens and it makes national news. It's on the cover of everything, New York Times. I mean, everywhere I looked, there was a story about what you pulled off with Bruce's, for the Bruce family with regard to Bruce's Beach. And then, some time passes and I'm reading a story about Palm Springs. And getting some respect for these black and brown folk in Palm Springs who had their land taken away, burnt down, I guess my question is whether or not you see a pattern here moving us in a particular direction. I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah. So let me tell you about Palm Springs. So we had heard about Section 14, and for the listeners who are not familiar with this story, you got to go online. You got to Google Section 14 Palm Springs. Understand what happened in that history. I'll give the brief version, but Tavis, it was about when was this? Early 1960s, like late 1950s. It was the 50s. It was a 1 square mile parcel of land in the middle of downtown Palm Springs where black and brown people lived. And these were the folks who were the cooks and the landscapers and the house cleaners and the chauffeurs to all the rich folks living around there. It was native land. It was Indian land. And Congress changed the law in 1959. It was the Indian Leasing Act of 1959. Congress changed the law so that instead of a maximum of 5-year lease on that land, they extended it for this era to 99 years, a 99-year lease. So they realized, hey, this land's very valuable. The city went in and systematically evicted, not just evicted,
burned it down.
But they burned it down. Okay, so that's the story. So anyways, so as part of this project, what I'm saying is I want to collect some stories from people from Section 14 from this. And we're looking, and there are lawsuits going on, so it's hard to get people because they don't want to talk when they're doing lawsuit. But so, I'm emailing, I'm calling, and I can't get anyone who's willing to talk to me. So I sit on it, and it's my birthday, and my father calls me. Now, my father and I, we don't have a great relationship. We haven't been in touch for a while, but he calls every year on my birthday, and he says happy birthday. We talk a little bit, and when we're hanging up, now my dad went to Palm Springs High School, so he grew up down there.
Oh, got it.
And when we're hanging up, I said, hey, Dad, hold on. Before you hang up, I said, let me ask you something. Have you ever heard of District 14? And my dad said, you mean Section 14? And I go, yeah, Section 14. He goes, yeah, that's where I was born.
Hold that thought. Our remaining moments with George Father III when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
I can't believe how spotless my floors look after using the Swiffer Power Mop. No more dragging around a heavy mop and messy bucket. Now I get the same deep clean without all the work. Thanks to the powerful solution and scrubbing pad of the Swiffer Power Mop, dirt and grime don't stand a chance, and I don't break a sweat. Mic drop. Mop drop.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
A smarter way to mop. Try it or your money back.
At the tone, please record your message.
You ready?
Drop it!
Mr. Tavis Smiley, preach it. Thank you, man. Politics in this country is crazy. You put things in perspective that even I didn't. The right is playing fast and loose with facts and scapegoating everyone under the sun, especially black and brown people. As a white man, I do not agree with this, and I am on my black and brown brothers and sisters' side. Fight the good fight. Know that I am part of the resistance. Let's fight the power.
Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
He's a paradigm pioneer.
And the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
You said District 14. Your father said Section 14. Yeah, I know it. I was born there.
He said that when his when his parents brought him home from the hospital, they brought him to Section 14. He said his dad had it was a shack, right, a shanty, and his grandmother lived one over. And so here's why I mentioned that. We all have these stories in our family, and we don't have to look far. And so what we're trying to do is we want folks to go to blacklandlost.org. You get to that homepage. You can watch a couple of videos, clips, but at the top in the middle, there's a button that says Share Your Story. And if you've got somebody in your family or if it happened to you, we want you to put your story in there so we can build our database and we can reach out to record your story.
I'm also thinking about the ways in which, this is what I do. This is the nerd in me, right? But I'm also thinking, George, about the way in years to come, scholars and authors and historians and educators can use this archive.
Right. That's right. And Tavis, look, I'm not, I'm proud to say, like, my model for this is not original thing for me. Everything I'm doing, we stole it from the Shoah Foundation, right? So Shoah Foundation is, collects stories and narratives from Holocaust survivors. And it started with Holocaust survivors. Now it's expanded to genocide. And their mission, right? Their mission is to collect, preserve, and share survivor testimonies in order to increase knowledge and understanding and to build a future that rejects anti-Semitism, hatred, dehumanization, and genocide. We're doing the same thing. But we can't, and that's why it pisses me off that we're trying to erase history. Like, we can't go forward. I think we can do both. Yeah. I think we can acknowledge what happened in the past and move forward in a positive direction.
Yep. Well, as we established earlier in this conversation, the timing for this project could not be more propitious. And I know you are listening all across the country. And if you don't have a story, I know you know somebody who has a story. And so my end and aim, my mission in having George on this program, and I was just saying to him privately, which I'll now say publicly, I'm going to give him the names of every other Negro I know who hosts a show, heard across the country that he needs to be on. You need to be on The Breakfast Club. You need to be on Roland Martin. You need to be, I'm going to give you all their numbers and all their names because you need to be on all of these shows. We all need to get this message out. So I'm not territorial in that regard. So I'll share that with you so you can call these people as well and get on their shows. But for now, it's the blacklandlost.org website, blacklandlost.org. Go there, read it for yourself. Tell your family members to go there. Again, from California to the Carolinas, literally, there are all kinds of stories that we have that need to be archived. Last word to you.
Yeah, hey, so last thing I'll mention, as we're collecting these narratives, sometimes we do the interview and it's not one person, it's siblings. And it's been really beautiful, Tavis, to see how understanding this history and doing the research is actually bringing families together. You got brothers and sisters who haven't been in touch, and now they got weekly calls where, like, share the research you learned. So it's something like you said, we're a graceful people, and we take some tragedy, some crisis, and we turn it into something that can bring us together. It's beautiful.
Exhibit A, you got you and your dad talking. So I digress on that. Once again, blacklandlost.org. Did I say blacklandlost.org? I think I said blacklandlost.org. George Fowler, good to see you, my friend.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Chicago's Black Mayor Brandon Johnson compared President Trump's threats to cut federal funding to terrorism, stating he won't negotiate with terrorists after Trump moved to strip sanctuary cities of aid. Former President Biden criticized the Trump administration for causing damage and destruction during a speech in Chicago Tuesday. Biden advocated for Social Security, adding that Trump has taken a, quote, hatchet to the Social Security Administration. There are now more than 560 measles cases in Texas linked to an outbreak that started among members of a Mennonite church that opposes vaccinations. The latest number shows about 24 new cases since Friday. And the antitrust trial against Meta continues today, with CEO Mark Zuckerberg defending his purchase of Instagram and WhatsApp. The FTC plans to call former COO Sheryl Sandberg to testify. The trial's outcome could reshape big tech operations. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Imagine a photograph of your favorite place in California. Then right in the middle of it, one piece of litter. Litter has no place in our lives, not one piece. Together, let's change that. Clean California. Zero litter is the goal. CleanCA.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers beat Colorado Tuesday 6-2 on Jackie Robinson Day. Every player from both teams wore a number 42 jersey in honor of Robinson, Major League Baseball's first black player. Before the game, the Dodgers and Colorado players gathered together to hear Lakers legend Kareem Abdul-Jabbar talk about the importance of Robinson's legacy. Kareem called President Trump's policies on diversity, equity, and inclusion an undercover reason to discriminate. Robinson became a civil rights advocate after he retired from baseball in 1957 and met with Presidents Dwight Eisenhower, John F. Kennedy, and Richard Nixon. Robinson would not be happy with the current president. Robinson would be encouraged by the fact that both of Major League Baseball's black managers are right here in Southern California. The Dodgers' Dave Roberts and Ron Washington with the Angels. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, this is Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, and for over 20 years, Parkside Economic Development Corporation has served Leimert Park and surrounding communities, empowering tomorrow's leaders and changing lives. Parkside EDC has awarded over $400,000 in college scholarships while sharing economic principles of the Big Five of money with students and their families. Parkside EDC partners with organizations like the Brotherhood Crusade to assure our youth have the financial acumen to succeed. Parkside EDC provides families and businesses with financial insights, offering free online, on-site, and on-air B-Warp presentations. The Black Wealth Attainment and Retention Programs helps our community acquire, sustain, and pass down legacy wealth. High school seniors can apply for this year's scholarship awards at parksideedc.org. This is a community call to action from